Good evening and welcome to South Dublin County Council's redo webinar of our most ambitious strategy for cycling. Apologies to anyone who struggled trying to attend our last webinar. We were struck down with some gremlins in our IT system, but we tried our best to work it out at the time, but alas, it was not to be. So my humblest apologies to you all, and my gratitude to you all again tonight for joining us for what we are calling our Q&A session on Cycling South Dublin, a programme of work. First up, some housekeeping. Can all presenters and speakers remain on mute until your turn to speak, please? I wish to welcome all of the participants this evening. Could you please type your questions into the Q&A, which is located on the right-hand side of your screen. A reminder to all not to post any personal information into the Q&A. And a thank you to those of you who have emailed in some questions already. The recording of the first webinar of November 25th is available on our website, sdcc.ie, for your review. At that webinar, we heard from 5 speakers. First up, we had Mick Mulhern, who's the director here in South Dublin County Council. Mick presented on the cycling strategy, and he will do that again for us this evening. Finola O'Driscoll of the National Transport Authority presented on the Bike Life study, which was published this summer. Ronan Carroll from our own South Dublin's project manager on the Dodder Greenway gave us a presentation on the Dodder Greenway project. Ali Manari, who is the South Dublin Road Safety Officer, gave a presentation on pedalling to school. And finally, we had Kevin Baker from the Dublin Cycling Campaign, who gave us a presentation on the different cycling projects around Dublin and the power of the people. All the speakers are here this evening, and they will answer questions that are posted. So do please get your questions in. So Mick, can I ask you to have your presentation ready, please? And when you are ready, you can go ahead and share it. And in fact, Mick is not there. Mick Mulhern, are you there? I can see you.
Sorry, yeah. Apologies.
No, Mick's back. That's great.
Apologies.
So, Mick, if you are ready to share your presentation, please.
Yeah, it's ready.
Okie dokie, and I'll just put you up on the screen. And there you go.
Great, thanks, Jennifer. And I am at home this evening, so my broadband can be a little bit sketchy, but if I drop out, Jennifer will be able to jump right back in. So, as Jennifer said, my name's Mick Mulhern. I'm the Director of Planning and Transport in South Dublin County Council, and we're just going to do a very quick presentation now on the proposed programme of work. There's a longer presentation that's on our website, which you're more than welcome to go through at your own time. So, look, our vision is for South Dublin to become one of Ireland's most cycle-friendly counties. We absolutely recognise we're not there at the moment, and there's a lot to be done. So our mission is ultimately to try and provide people with a well-connected, well-designed, safe cycle network that offers people a real credible alternative to using their own car. So that's what we're trying to achieve. Our objectives are about providing a comprehensive connected cycle network, making cycling more achievable for people of all ages and abilities, and really improving the cycle identity of the counties. To do that, we know there's a couple of key things we need to do. We need to have a programme that's agreed and that we're clear on, which this is trying to do. We need funding to deliver it. We need to demonstrate our commitment to delivering designs in line with best practice guidance and doing segregated cycle lanes where possible. We need to get political and community support for what we're trying to achieve. We've ourselves experienced a number of difficulties with delivering schemes across the county of late. We need a better maintenance programme, and we need to keep this as a live document so that we can review it over time and change in line with what we're facing on the ground. Why do we need to do it? There's lots and lots of reasons. Again, the Cycle South Dublin strategy, which is online, goes into this in a lot more detail. But a few key points on here is 3.8% of people in Dublin cycle on a frequent basis. That's 11% in Dublin city centre. 21% of people would like to cycle more frequently. And I think what's really interesting is the national target is 10%. In London, that's 20%. which they're coming close to achieving. And in the Netherlands, that's 50%, and they're already at that. Whereas in South Dublin, we're only currently at 3.8%. We have 207 kilometres of cycle lane in the county. A lot of that, some of that's in good condition, some of it not so good, and a lot of it is unconnected, which I think is a serious reason why people don't actually cycle. How have we selected our routes? Four reasons. Firstly, we want to try and connect our schools. The 78 schools in the county, the routes in the strategy connect 50 of those together. We want to connect our Talatown Centre and all of our 9 villages together. And we want connections that we think people will use. And this has been informed by the GDA cycle network and our own county development plan. So what are we trying to deliver? Well, the first piece is about upgrading and maintaining and doing light segregation schemes on our existing network, on that existing 207. And we have some emerging light segregation schemes and bollarded schemes. There's one going in Wellington Lane at the moment, and there's more to come. Then our now period is over the next 4 years, where the CycleSouth Dublin strategy has got 19 projects in it. Then our soon, we have 12 projects identified. In our later, we've got 10. And they total 41 projects delivering 170 kilometres at a cost of about 240 million. And then on top of that, Bus Connects have got 6 projects themselves, which is 40 kilometres. And alongside that, we want to trial projects as we go, learn from them, see what works and what doesn't, and use them to inform our final designs. So this is just a network showing what we have at the moment. As I said, there's 207 kilometres on. And a lot of that, some of that's in good condition, some of it not so good and needs to be upgraded. This is our proposed now timescale, which is the next 4 years. There's 19 projects in there, and the detail of each of those is in the CycleSouth Dublin strategy. We have 9 projects which we're currently working on. We've got 1 to 9 listed there. This presentation will be made available publicly, but in short, we've got the Selbridge Link Street in Adamstown. We've got the number 2 is the Canal to Lucan Urban Greenway. 3 is a scheme which isn't necessarily referenced in CycleSouth Dublin, but it is a scheme that we're just closing out at the moment at Monastery Road. We've got the N81 Jobstown Junction, which is due to go on site in January. We've got 2 really great schemes in Talatown Centre around new public realm spaces, which have just got Part 8 and will be starting next year. We've got 7 is Wellington Lane. 8 is the Dodder, which is multiple phases, of which the first is nearly finished, and we've got 3 phases to start next year. And then we've got Grange Road, again, which is probably just under the video there. In addition to that, we're also discussing with the NTA about the potential to introduce light segregation schemes, which are extruded curbs or bollarded schemes delivered kind of quickly in the road network where there is space to do that without sizable redesign. Our soon category has got 12 projects in that, and again, they're shown on the map. And then, sorry, our later phase has got 10 projects in there. And the idea is that all of these are delivered over the next 10 years or sooner, and the sooner being dependent on funding and ultimately resource within the council and the consultancy bodies to be able to support us in delivering that. And then the final one is everything together, which also includes the 6 Bus Connects routes, which our view is if we can deliver that, we believe it's credible to say that we can deliver this. We'd like to be more ambitious, but we think it is possible to deliver this over the next 10 years. And that, in our view, would be a pretty well connected cycle network. So the final agreed programme will guide our cycle work and priorities for the council. Individual designs, and as I said, there's 9 currently being progressed that are in design, but all of the rest designs haven't started. We've just done some in-house analysis of them themselves. So alignments, designs, issues, they haven't been worked through, but they will be in time. We would progress Part 8 planning applications where they're necessary, but also deal with some stuff under Section 38, which is a quicker route to get stuff in the ground a bit faster. As I said, 8 of the 19 projects in the now are currently being progressed and will continue to do those. And ultimately, this programme is contingent on quite a significant amount of public investment, and those discussions are underway with the NTA. So our next steps are, we presented this programme to our council on the 9th of November. They were supportive and keen for us to go out to consultation. We started a non-statutory consultation on the 17th of November. We had an attempted online webinar on the 25th, this webinar on the 8th, and the plan is to close that non-statutory consultation on the 18th of December. So please do get your comments in. There's both a survey and an opportunity to provide written comments on any aspect of the strategy. So we'll review them, and the plan is, subject to the scale and the complexity of comments, our plan is to try and bring this back to Council in Q1 2021, and then we'll ultimately report on that yearly to Council. So that's it, Jennifer. I'll hand back to you.
That's super, Mick. Thank you. So I myself am going to give you a presentation now on the survey that we have carried out in relation to Cycle South Dublin programme of work. So I am just going to share my own screen. Hold on one moment, please. Now, okay. So
yeah, that's up, Jennifer.
Great. Okay, perfect. You can all see that now. So I'm going to give you a short presentation on this survey. So what we decided to do, so my name is Jennifer McGrath, I might as well introduce myself. I'm Jennifer McGrath, I'm the Senior Executive Engineer here in the Road Design and Construction section of here in South Dublin County Council. So we'll go to the next slide. Sorry, now I have to figure out, here we go. So why did we decide on doing a survey, I suppose? So when we decided we were going to go out to public consultation on the strategy, we thought we would do a non-statutory public consultation. We would have it open for 4 weeks, and it would close on the 18th of December. We would use the consultation portal, and the reason for that was that we could accept formal submissions, and we thought that that would be most suitable for organisations and charities like the Dublin Cycling Campaign, that they would be able to give us some comprehensive submissions on the strategy. And also we thought we'd do a survey, and that we felt that would be more attractive for individuals, so they wouldn't feel they'd have to give a large sort of a submission. So this is our findings. So to date, we have had 336 participants within the survey, which is pretty good. We invited and asked questions in relation to gender, age, where people live and work within the county, cyclists, whether people are cyclists, whether they're pedestrians, if they would support the Cycle South Dublin strategy, and any comments then that they had to share with us in relation to the strategy. So one of the first questions was, what is your gender? So we asked people, were they male, female, or would they prefer not to say? And the reason for this is that in general, and Finola presented on this last time on her Bike Life presentation, that it is mostly men that would commute to work by bike. And for that reason, I wanted to see what it would be like, or we wanted to see what it would be like here in South Dublin. Is it that mostly it's men would prefer to cycle, and how we can change that in the future? So this was setting our baseline, and we're hoping to change this to have a more balanced between men and women in the future. So as you can see there, we had 229 men responding and 102 females responded, and 4 people preferred not to say. So the age range then, we had quite a considerable number between the ages of 25 to 44. There was 176 of those, which amounted to 52% of the total number. The next range that was greatest was the 45 to 64-year-olds. That was that amounted to 126 people, giving 38%. The next one down then was 65 plus. There was 14 of those. The next age range was 15 years to 24 years. There was 14 of those, and we had very few under 15 who gave us a response, which was a bit of a shame. So we asked people then, where do they live? The majority of people do not live in South Dublin County Council, but that doesn't mean that they don't come here to work or to socialise or to you know, go to the cinema and go shopping and climb the mountains, all that kind of thing that we do in South Dublin. So the majority of the people were from Rathfarnham. There were 69 from Rathfarnham, 38 people from Tala, 30 people from Templeogue, 25 people from Clondalkin. Firhouse amounted to 18. Kimmage I can't see because it's such a dark colour. The Green Hills area amounted to 16. Lucan was 16. Palmerstown was 7. And after Palmerstown is Rathcoole, and we had 5 of those, and below 5 for the rest of the villages and towns that were mentioned on the list. That included Ballymount, Edmondstown, Ronanstown and Jobstown. So those people, we asked, are you interested in the cycling provisions that we are suggesting within the strategy? And why are you interested? So we asked, are you local resident, which was the majority of people were local to the county. Are they leisure cyclists, commuter cyclists, local parents, shoppers? Do they use public transport? Drivers? Do they work in the area? Are they students within South Dublin, third level students, businesses and other? So you can see the spread there, with residents being the majority of the people that took the survey. Oh, and I should note actually on that, that was an accumulative number. People could be a resident and a parent, or, you know, a shopper and a driver. So the next question we asked was, do you cycle often? So 27% said no, they don't, and 72% said they do. So we had a lot of cyclists to take this survey. Do you walk often? The answer was 6% said no, 1% left this question unanswered, and 93% said that they do walk a lot. So that's good. So then we asked for some comments and recommendations on the Cycle South Dublin strategy, and I've just put a few of them up here now, and maybe you can add to these or add your own comments when you go onto the portal itself to give us your views. So some of them I'll just call out. Reduce speeds of vehicles. That was quite popular. A lot of people were asking to reduce the speeds of vehicles within the county. People did not want us to touch our trees, so we're all in agreement that trees are not to be chopped down unless absolutely necessary. Safe cycling routes will encourage more people to cycle, as this is a carbon-free mode of travel. Yeah, that's great. Segregated cycle tracks, please. That was another top item on the lists. Dutch-style junctions was a good one too. It was quite common and popular. People asked for a balance for greater mobility for all road users, which included walking, cycling and public transport. They said, don't delay, now is the time to do this. Cycling safety over driver convenience. No parking zones outside of schools. So Ali Manari is here with us tonight. He might have something to say about that. People say they don't like bollards. Now that was one I put in. It only came up a couple of times, but I thought it was worthy to be in there. Some people say that they did not feel safe at the moment cycling on our streets, which is the main reason why our strategy is here. Others suggested different routes, and there were lots of route suggestions, which was really, really good. And lots of people said, thanks, this is a great strategy. So that's really encouraging for us here. There were very few negative comments, but please do put all comments in. All comments will be noted. So there you go, that's my presentation. I'd just like to ask you if you haven't filled out the survey or you haven't left a submission, do go on to www.consult.sdublincoco.ie or cycle@sdublincoco.ie to give us your comments, and we will take them on board. So following my presentation, I would like to introduce the rest of the speakers here this evening. We had, as I mentioned earlier, we have Finola O'Driscoll from the National Transport Authority, and we also have Kevin Baker from the Dublin Cycling Campaign. We have Ali Manari, who is our road safety officer, and Ronan Carroll, who's the project manager for the Dodder Greenway. So I'm going to invite Finola. Say hello to Finola. Just give me one moment now to put Finola up on the screen. Hi Finola, you're live now. Welcome. And would you mind giving us a few words about yourself? Please introduce yourself.
Hi Jen, thanks. Yes, I'm a senior program manager in the National Transport Authority. I've been working with South Dublin on and off now for a good few years. It's good to see the strategy come about. It definitely, it's great to kind of, and the fact that it's so user friendly as well, and it's kind of public facing, because I think maybe some of our previous documents on cycle networks have been just a little bit just not too friendly, not too inviting. So it's great to see that, and good to hear the responses so far. And it does marry your ambition in South Dublin, marries very well with the programme for government and the targets in that. So currently there's a big commitment in the programme for government for funding such ambition. So I know that's my main role when I'm here, right? That's why you ask me.
That's exactly why you're here.
So yeah,
thanks, Finola.
I'm super very excited to see Cycle South Dublin kind of lay it out on a whole network, county level network programme.
Yeah, brilliant. We're happy too, I have to say. Keep us all in the job for a long time. So Kevin, you're very welcome as well. And I would just like you to introduce yourself as well, please.
Yeah, hi there. So I'm Kevin Baker. I'm the chairperson of the Dublin Cycling Campaign. Dublin Cycling Campaign is a charity that kind of promotes and enables cycling in Dublin. So we think cycling is great. It should be an option for everyone. And so we're delighted to see kind of ambitious programs like Cycle South Dublin, which is about making cycling like a real option for everyone, not just for the kind of the fit and the able who are doing it right now. Yeah, that's me.
Agreed. We're all in agreement with you as well. So that's super, Kevin. Thank you. So I will now open up to the floor and let's get some questions from our participants. Mary and Sheila, are you around? Hi,
yes,
Mary.
we're here.
Hi, Sheila. Hiya. Who would like to take the first question? Sheila, are you ready?
Yeah, I've one here from Sean Hoog. He's asking about the gates to gain access through parks. New Cherrywood Crescent is too tight to get a full-size bike through without lifting onto back wheel. Not possible with panniers or child seat. It does restrict permeability when they are essentially impassable. That would be probably one for Ronan.
Yeah, I'm just going to put Ronan up now. Hi, Ronan.
Thanks, Sheila. A nice many question to start with. I presume it's kissing gates or restrictive gates. Unfortunately for us, we're faced with a situation where a lot of people in the community want the park to be safe, for cycleways to be safe, and then there's the commuter user and leisure user. So from any reviews of kissing gates or any type of restrictive gates like that, they're just not enforcing cyclists and families to dismount and wheelchair users to struggle to get through these gates is not really a solution. It might be a short-term solution for security reasons, but it's not something that we're looking to implement as part of our cycling schemes. But it does need to be assessed on a case-by-case basis. If there is a serious issue to public safety with regards to security of the park, then unfortunately the council has to look at that. But all in all, our default line is that we do not want them, and that we're looking to try and come up with a solution that allows cyclists and disabled users and the panniers and the different add-ons to bicycles now to be able to get through these. But at the same time, we need to keep one eye on public safety through excessive use of things that we don't want to see, such as scramblers in public parks and things like that. Is that okay?
Thank you, Ronan. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you. There's a balance to be struck, and it is quite difficult. It's difficult when you have a bike and you can't get through the gate. It's extremely it's extremely annoying. So we are, just to say that we are looking at some designs of kissing gates and those sort of gates into our parks. We're hoping that we can come up with something, and if anybody has any solutions, please do get in touch with us. Mary, Sheila, Mary, would you have another question, please, that we can ask our panel?
Certainly, Jen. Noel has emailed in, and he says that between 10 and 20% of office workers are estimated to work from home on any given day permanently. And has this been added to the congestion models? So maybe Mick, you might have a position or a view on that.
Now, I don't know if Mick is available. I think he might have dropped out. Oh, you're there, Mick. Do you want to turn on your screen?
Oh, sorry, apologies.
For us there, please.
Yeah. I'm happy to give an answer. I mean, and I'm sure Kevin actually Baker would probably have some views on this, because obviously he looks across the whole of Dublin. But look, I think in our view, whilst there has been a slight reduction in congestion on our roads, we've been tracking it, and we've seen about a 10% reduction on traffic on average since COVID began, but that is rapidly going back up again. And actually, since 2016, we've had an 11% increase in users on our road. So I think traffic is getting worse. I think that's the reality, and I think ultimately a large part of what we're trying to do at Cycle South Dublin is just provide a slightly better balanced situation to provide more space for cyclists. But I mean, it'd be interesting to get Kevin's take on that as well.
Yeah, so I suppose one of the things we should try and think is just a little bit more broadly. Yes, more people are going to be working from home, and I think that's going to have pretty significant impact on transport in Dublin. But cycle routes are not just for cycling to work. They're for people to cycle to school or to cycle to GA Club. Like, there's lots of other reasons people travel. I've actually found myself, even though I would normally cycle to work, cycling a little bit more often to go to the shops or for leisure trips during lockdown. I think one of the other things is like congestion is not the only problem we're trying to tackle here. There's lots of other problems that cycling tackles. Carbon emissions is a big one, but also kind of like the lack of physical inactivity that most people have has a pretty big, huge, like pretty large detrimental impact on our health. So cycling tackles lots of other problems and not just congestion.
Yeah, you're right there, Kevin. It's so true. Have we anybody else want to say anything about that? Finola or Ali or Ronan, or are you happy to move on to the next question? Finola, you're on mute there. Would you like to say something?
Just to reiterate, echoing what Kevin said, it's only about 30% of people that actually travel to work. There's a vast majority of trips are not commuting to work, and they're the kind of trips that we do want to, I suppose, plan for in our networks. You know, the school, social trips, leisure trips, retail trips, which can happen quite a bit more, casually, and supporting local centres, local retail, when it can be done via active travel, walking or cycling. You tend to pop in. It's been shown in surveys like that pedestrians and cyclists would visit more shops within an area. So yeah, there's the focus on commuting. Yeah, maybe our commuting patterns are going to change, not as significantly. The data coming from other countries during the pandemic, like once restrictions are eased, travel numbers go back up to 80-85%. So it's not a panacea really. That it's not the case that there won't be a need for travel or that travel won't be happening. So we still have to kind of manage and plan for the type of travel we want.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. Sheila, have you got a question for us, please? I have a
question here from Warren O'D. How confident are you that funding will be approved for the plan? That would be a question for Finola.
Sure is, yeah. Now there you go, Finola.
Yeah, so the programme for government sets out an ambitious target of 360 million a year to be directed towards walking and cycling projects. So that adds up to 1.8 billion over the course of 5 years, which is it's unprecedented. That term has lost its meaning, hasn't it? last couple of months, but in terms of funding for walking and cycling. So yeah, I think absolutely the commitment is there. Again, looking internationally, these are the type of walking and cycling projects are the type of projects that, you know, are viewed very favorably in terms of stimulus packages. They create a lot of local employment as well as pushing through for the green recovery. So I think, yeah, that there is a very strong commitment that the funding will be there.
Can I come in on that as well?
Yeah.
Do you need to make me live, or am I on?
You're on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was
Okay.
muted there.
Yeah,
I was just going to ask you to join. So yeah, please go ahead.
I think I just wanted to add something to what, I mean, the NTA have always been very supportive funding wise of not just what South Dublin have been trying to do, but Fingal, London, Leary and DCC. And I think one of the challenges historically, and I think we all know it's changing, is that historically we've only been able to ever agree funding on a yearly basis. And that's great, but ultimately kind of one of the things that we ended up having to do in South Dublin was you end up doing kind of surgical interventions across the county. You do a roundabout here and a stretch of road there and another roundabout in another location. And you're not able to really sell the big picture of what you're trying to achieve because nobody had the certainty that funding would come, especially coming out of the recession and things like Lewis across, you know, the Lewis was sucking up every piece of transport money that was out there. And so nobody had the certainty that, yeah, we can commit to building a network. And subsequently, I think what people became increasingly irate about is well, why are you doing the roundabout at the end of my road? And great, yeah, the roundabout's better, but I still can't cycle anywhere else in the area. So it all just seems a bit ludicrous, doesn't it? And so I think even those people that say, oh, I like cycling, but just not here, I think they say that because they actually mean it, and it's localized to, well, I don't see this fitting into a wider piece. I don't see it fitting into a bigger network that will enable me to cycle from here to Tala Village. And so I think the new program for government that Finola's talking about will ultimately, I think, allow us to move into a space where we've got a 10-year program, but a funding commitment. What we're hoping to achieve is that funding commitment around a 5-year program, which allows us to say to people, well, we're not just doing your roundabout, we're actually got 19 projects which we're trying to deliver. And if we build that over 5 years or 4 years or 3 years or whatever, ultimately we will deliver, you know, not 100 meters, but 25 or, you know, 100 kilometers nearly of cycle network. And I think people can then say, oh, right, okay, actually, this is a serious proposal. It's not just an inconvenience at the end of my road. So I think that move, you know, a change of mindset, I think will get more and more people on board. And I think the more money that goes into it, it'll become that self-fulfilling thing where it's expected and people can buy into it. But I mean, I don't know, maybe Kevin, did you want to come in on any of that as well, or?
So we've been tracking funding across the country for years. And so the program for government's talking about €360 million a year for walking and cycling, which is about 10% of the national transport, or it's about 20% of the national transport budget between the two of them. Our estimates were we were spending maybe about 1.5% to 2% before. So there's about 5 to 6 times more funding now than there was last year. So I'm pretty confident we're in a good place.
I'll come back in.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, and I just wanted to come back in on one thing. So this year we had a funding agreement with the NTA for about 5 million or so to deliver works. We haven't submitted the next year's proposal to the NTA yet, but we'll be looking for up into the region of about 20 million or so, and that's just us starting to scale up. You know, the plan will be to do more and more and to increase that as we build our capacity and our team ability to deliver these internally. So that's a step change of 5 or so million up to nearly 20 million. Now we might not get all that funding, but that's what we're asking for now, and it's, you know, it's a clear program of work that sits behind that. So you know, I'd be fully expecting the NTA to support them where they're in line with their aspirations. But yeah, so Muireann, I hope that probably gives you a pretty good answer on some of that.
Thanks for that. And I think the best thing to come out of all of this is that we will have a connected cycle network within the county that people, as you say, Mick, you can travel wherever you want and you can feel secure that you're going to be cycling on a safe and secure cycle track. out of all of this money that we're hoping to spend. So Mary or Sheila, I can't remember. Mary, have you got a question for us, please?
I have, and there are quite a number of questions coming in, but I've one myself that people ask, and maybe Ronan, you can tell me, because I know you're involved in this. From inception to construction, roughly speaking, what is the period of time that would take?
It's generally about 2 to 3 years. I mean, if you were to run everything back to back, it would be maybe a year and a half, but that's assuming that you went straight from inception to feasibility to planning to detailed design to construction. You know, there's a lot of things would have to happen for it to be a year and a half to 2 years. So generally it's 2 to 3 years, I think, is a little bit more realistic, depending on the complexities of the project. If everything went smooth, it'd be closer to 2. If everything was, you know, a little bit of tweaking here and there, it would be closer to 3.
I think that we find that when the money is there, that it runs much quicker, that we do actually get out in sight quite quickly, whereas when we're looking for money and the money hasn't been there, the planning applications, Part 8s that we call them, they're sitting there for quite some time, and then people in general would forget about the process that we went through, and informing our citizens about the process, and then they forget, and it might cause some upset. Of course you can. Yeah.
I think I'll just wait. Yeah, I think one of the things, I think Ronan's absolutely right on the program there. I think one of the biggest challenges that we face is when we have a scheme and we go out to consult, and you know, we engage with people, and it gets to the point where we've moved into the statutory process, and suddenly people think, oh, actually, hang on a minute, I'd like to change this, this, and this, because it starts to directly affect me. I think at that point, then that's when we start to run the real risks of, you know, the scope of schemes changing so much that ultimately they start to fail to deliver what we're trying to achieve, and you can end up spending a lot of time stuck in the weeds on, you know, how you make a scheme deliver the objectives that the NTA are willing to fund, that we know is the right thing to do, but then you're up against, you know, sometimes quite vocal and, you know, well-informed local opposition about schemes, and that can become quite difficult. So again, part of the rationale for Cycle South Dublin is us saying at the front, well, here's all the routes we want to deliver. Let's see which ones people support. Let's see which ones are contentious from the outset. But I'm sure Finola's probably, you know, Finola's across the whole of Dublin, and I'm sure she's probably got lots of examples where councils have done really good engagement and political and local and community engagement to kind of shorten that time scale so that you can actually do what Ronan's been talking about. But Finola?
Yeah, I'm thinking how to answer this properly. My experience, the traditional ways of doing projects, like, we have a concept design, we'll go to maybe do a bit of public consultation, then we'll do more public consultation, then you might do a part 8, and that would be statutory, and then get planning approval from the council, and that's assuming it doesn't go to An Bord Pleanála or anything, if it needs an EIA or anything like that. They're just getting longer and longer, and the period between concept and getting planning approval is just stretching. So actually, I think they're stretching into 3, 4, 5 years. We still have some projects on our books with 2012 codes. They started in 2012, and that's across all of our counties. Where has it worked well and quickly? With good community engagement and councillor engagement. I'm going to cite some of the stuff that you're doing at the moment is kind of temporary, and that Dún Laoghaire have been doing, and some in Cork, as sort of a kind of proactive and speedy public consultation where you can give people real options in terms of this is what something would look like. How do you feel about it? We can all go back. It's temporary. It's removable. We can go back to where it was, and you know the way things were. But now, how do you feel about this? Having experienced it on the street, because I think as engineers and planners, we overestimate what people can, you know, the drawings that we have, even really good kind of 3D stuff. People just don't read them as well as we think they do. I think no matter what, and the best kind of consultation, the best kind of real authentic consultation really is between people choosing, that making real informed choices between, right, is that what I like, or I like a little bit of that but less of this, which they can do when you've kind of put schemes and temporary measures on streets, rather than between something they know and something they don't know, that they don't understand, that they can't read the drawings on, that
Jen,
their
do you want to talk
local
about
WhatsApp
Wellington Lane?
groups have kind of taken again, and it's hard. It's very hard to kind of. So I think there's been a lot more. It's harder to get projects through, and yet if you can do the temporary stuff, maybe that's. I'm seeing that might be a quicker way of getting things through, and a more authentic public consultation process.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's great. Thanks, Finola. It's a really good point. And Mick just reminded me there of one of the schemes that I'm involved in, which is Wellington Lane. We have a trial there at the moment, and we have what we decided to do was to put a temporary cycle track there, which is quite troublesome because there are two roundabouts. One is quite a large one and one is a smaller one. And it was unfortunate that someone was killed at the smaller roundabout. So we're very eager to make a change there to make it much safer. So we decided that we would trial different scenarios to find the best solution for the area. So currently we have, there were no pedestrian crossings or safe cycle crossings at the smaller roundabout, which we're calling Templeville roundabout, which is on the Templeville Road junction with Wellington Lane. So we've put in temporary ramps on each arm of the roundabout. We haven't finished it just yet. The ramps are in place. They're complete, but we still need to put the beacons up and some bollards as well for protecting the cyclists. And a similar thing will happen, a similar design will occur at the larger roundabout, which we are calling the Orwell roundabout, which is at the junction of Orwell Road and Wellington Lane in Templogue. And there we are allowing, we're proposing that cyclists can cycle through the roundabout if they feel safe enough to do so. But for those who would prefer, they can cycle along the bollards and use again, we've put in temporary ramps and zebra crossings where there are no crossings. Two of the major arms of that roundabout have got signalised crossings. And cyclists can use these ramps and the bollarded section to cycle along this route. So we're hoping to go to use the information that we get. We're doing traffic counts and user satisfaction surveys to see what people like and what they would prefer to be there, and to assist us in finding the best solution for this section. And it's proving to be really good. We've also got a survey on our consultation portal if you would like to take that survey also. It's on the Wellington Lane, and we're asking people how safe they feel using the roundabouts and using the cycle tracks. So maybe you'd like to take that. And we're hoping to start our permanent scheme this time, in April. We'll be going to council with our preferred design for a permanent scheme. But prior to our temporary trial, we also did some consultation with the local citizens, the councillors and the schools within the area. We did workshops with the schools, and we did a citizens forum as well. And it was very useful, very helpful to us. It informed us a lot that people are eager to have safe cycling systems and walking systems within their community, and also they'd like improvement in their public realm, which is brilliant as well. And so that's our scheme that we're trialing at the moment, and the public engagement. So I'd encourage you to get onto the consultation portal and take that survey, please. Sheila, have we got another question?
Oh, we've loads.
Great.
I have a question here from Murray O'D.
Yeah.
Well done on this ambitious plan. Alongside the new infrastructure, will there be measures such as quiet ways for traffic calming to ensure safe routes to schools, shops and workplaces? and soft measures to encourage more people to cycle. Don't
Mick.
fight amongst yourselves over that one.
Mick, would you like to take that?
I'm happy to. Yeah, I'm happy to start it. Yeah, I'm happy to start, and I'll probably ask Ali to come in as well and talk about some of the work that we're doing on School Street next. So, look, the intention of the Cycle South Dublin programme is, and we said it, like one of our key objectives is about designing in line with the NTA cycle manual, with DMORs, and trying to deliver segregated cycle lanes where possible. And also, I mean, some of the routes that we've identified in the network that we're proposing, whilst we haven't designed them, ultimately could well be quiet ways, you know, through estates and so on. So absolutely, it's definitely on the table. I don't think any of the schemes, well, actually, some of the schemes that we're designing at the moment, some of those 9 that I put up on the list, some of those will actually include some quiet ways as well. So you can go on and have a look at the detailed routes for those. And you can see where they might be. But I think, Ali, did you want to come in and just talk about, I think Muireann's question was around school networks as well. Do you want to just talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose one of the first things to kind of say is the Green Schools programme, they do yearly research, and they sort of, from their research, they show that like nearly 90% of school children want to travel to school in a sustainable way. So we've actually looked at a number of areas where we can pilot a school street or a school zone style intervention outside schools. So we have 8 projects picked and agreed by council, with 4 of them going to progress to a pilot phase in 2021. And they're spread evenly across the county. But so the school, like at one end of the spectrum, you'll be looking at a temporary restriction on traffic arriving at the school during the drop-off and the pickup. And then at the other end, I suppose you'll be looking at kind of softer measures that will maybe deter some of the parking, because I suppose most of our listeners probably observe our school environment as being quite hostile in the morning, particularly for people who want to walk and cycle. And then second to that, I suppose just to say that the actual Cycle South Dublin network, if it was fully implemented tomorrow, there'd be nearly 60% of our schools would be within 200 meters of the network. So that's bringing a huge number of schools to within 200 meters of a safe cycle network as well. So I pass it back to somebody else.
To you, Jennifer, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the key things to our strategy is to get the children out cycling and get them cycling to school. It would be just wonderful to see more and more children cycling to school. Never mind, as Kevin spoke about earlier, the health benefits that brings as well is so good, and habit forming also. So Mary, have you got another question for us, please?
Yes, absolutely. I have one here now. It's just my thing is jumping on me now here. But Stephen has asked about Scheme 9. Is there any thought to extend further down Templerone Road to link up Templerone Estate with Ashton, Knockcullen and St. Columbkille's National School, and Sancta Maria with Darglewood?
Okay.
I mean, I think we can probably just answer that by saying, look, at the moment, we'll just take all comments in on particular. Oh, sorry, I'm actually live. Sorry, apologies. Look, I'm just frantically looking at the routes at the moment. Route 9. It's a very specific question. I mean, ultimately,
it goes past, yes, in
oh yeah,
near Orla roundabout.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with that one. Yeah, look, ultimately the routes, some of these routes, I think part of that actually has a Part 8 in place already, and that's, yeah, exactly, that's from memory. But ultimately, look, we'll happily take whatever comments we receive from people, and none of this is a draft network, so more than happy. Any suggestions on any routes that people think should be amended or extended or tweaked? I mean, we've already had a review and looked at some of these routes and think actually we already think some of these might benefit from a bit of tweaks here and there as well. So happy to take anything that people have, any comments that people have. Please do submit them.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, the best place to do that would be it would be on the consultation portal, either through the formal submission page or through the survey. And we have had lots and lots of suggestions of other routes that are not present in the strategy. So do get those routes in, because we need to know where you want to go. So I think we should invite another question then. Sheila, have you got a question for us,
Yes.
please?
I have a question from Noel. Has anybody ever looked at underground cycle-only routes on main arterial routes?
It's one for Finola. Or Kevin.
Kevin, would you like to take this?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I suppose most people, like when we ask people like why do they cycle, some of the reasons they talk about are joy, freedom, the wind going through their hair, not something you can experience in a long underground tunnel. I think tunnels will play a small part in order to kind of get people cycling from this one side of a very busy road to another, but they'll be a very small part in general. If you look at countries where people cycle a lot, tunnels are just a small component to get past a barrier like a big river or a big road.
Yeah, great. Finola, have you got anything to say? I agree with you. I think safety as well is another issue. Finola, would you like to say something there about tunnels?
Well, yeah, I suppose they would be very expensive, but drawing on the kind of like thinking about the kind of city and places we want to live in, there's that whole aesthetic part of it, and really it's a lot of kind of Cycle South Dublin won't just be for cycling, they'll be for pedestrians as well, and changing the shape and kind of use of our roads from very vehicle dominated to more people dominated, so people orientated at least, and so you'd be surprised what some of those kind of arterial roads could look like, given a little bit of love, a bit of treatment, and they could still obviously, for a lot of, they'll still carry some car traffic, but maybe a lot more bus, a lot more cyclists, a lot more pedestrians, and yeah, and opportunities for planting, for rest, you know, that they become not just the arterial roads that we know them as hostile environments, but actually, okay, they're never going to be, you know, but they'll have a sense of place to them as well, and at least at particular nodes, because a lot of our villages and towns, our urban villages and towns, are along those arterial roads, like that they, you know, as you know, Tala is built on them, and Lucan, so yeah, it's got a lot of South Dublin will be changing the kind of environment. Cycle South Dublin will be changing the environment of those roads, particularly at nodes, around schools, around town centres, around village centres, to make them very appealing to everyone, hopefully.
Yeah. I think I like what Kevin said about feeling the wind through your hair. I think that's a good reason not to have tunnels. Never mind the safety issue. Mary, have you got another question for us, please?
Yeah, there are some that already have been touched on. For example, Sean is asking about a recent media coverage of a joint appeal by school principals for safe cycle routes, and referring obviously that some of the cycle lanes are marked with solid white lines and none are accessible because of cars being dropped at school. So I think Ali has more or less dealt with that, you know, and obviously our school streets project should help with that. Liam Edwards had also asked about the Wellington Lane temporary measures and when it's going to be permanent, and I think you've covered that as well. Elaine Collins is asking, where can I get additional information on the Lucan Canal Loop route implementation? I am quite familiar with this route and I'm interested in how it will be implemented, considering the varied neighbourhoods it will pass through, from parkland to long-established housing estates.
Yeah, I'll deal with that one.
Okay. Mick is going to take that one. And you're on now, Mick.
Yeah, so this is a scheme that We have a design. So where this is in the process at the moment is there's a design team appointed. They're looking at options. There will be a public consultation on this imminently, a non-statutory public consultation on this imminently. I don't know, I can't remember exactly the timescales for it, but there will be a non-statutory public consultation with virtual room, etc., taking place in the not too distant future. But that'll go up on our website when we have that. I think the last time that Brenda, who's the project manager on that one, briefed me, she said, "Oh God, I can't remember the dates, but it'll be shortly." Finola, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, do you? You can just nod if you don't.
I don't know the dates, but I know that
Okay.
it's planning to be quite a, involved public consultation. All right.
Yeah. You're live now, Finola.
Yeah. So it's nearly 8 o'clock, guys. So I think we should have one more question before we close out. So Sheila, have you got a question for us, please?
Yes. I have one here from Damien. How well will South Dublin County Council's plans link up with cycling routes in DLR, County Council and Dublin City Council? Is anyone setting standards for the network nationally? Finola?
Yeah, I'll take that one. And Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Yeah, we're currently looking at similar kind of 5-year programs across the other counties in Dublin and the regional cities, actually. So Cycle South Dublin have kind of stolen a march on that, which is great, showing us how to do it. Yeah, and for sure, like travel, as Dubliners, we don't know those boundaries and we don't travel those boundaries, so absolutely the whole network and where they link in is being considered, and that there'll be plans coming out towards the start of next year on the other counties as well.
Jennifer, can I hop in here as well?
You sure can.
Yeah, by all means, yeah.
Absolutely, Kevin.
So what's happening at the national level is that the National Transport Authority is also reviewing the National Cycle Manual. And some of this has happened a little bit inside of the Bus Connect program. We're seeing kind of new, more internationally common designs in that project, which is kind of moving through the design stages right now. I suppose one of the things I try and encourage everyone to think in mind is a lot of the cycle infrastructure we have right now is kind of painted lines, and it's not suitable for everyone. It's suitable for those who are more confident about cycling. It's not very welcoming and safe to people who are kids cycling to school. It doesn't give parents that peace of mind they're looking for. It doesn't help those kind of novice or kind of cautious cyclists to get going. So I think it's a trend that's happening across Ireland that more and more cycle tracks are becoming properly segregated with proper curbs. We're seeing new designs of bus stops and at junctions that will hopefully make cycling a real option for everyone all along the journey and not just on certain sections of road.
Yeah, you're right. There's lots of different and new solutions coming out, which we all welcome. So listen, it's just Mick, are you happy now? Would you like to say something, or
Yeah.
would you like to say something? Sure.
Yeah.
Just
I think we should give everybody the opportunity to wrap up as well.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'll be the first one just to wrap up, and I think Kevin and Finola will probably want to just say a couple of quick words as well. But firstly, to say thanks everybody for joining us. There is a lot of work to do in cycling. We know that we're coming from a low enough base in the county. There is a lot to do. We're trying to put in place the program and the resources to make it happen. This takes time. It does take us time to do that, even internally, to make sure that we've got the structures and the team and the resource to do that. And look, the NTA are being incredibly supportive. So I do think it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, and when we get ourselves to a position where these things can get rolled out. So look, we are keen to do it. Look, we will need community and we will need political support to do this, because there will always be those people who don't see the immediate inconvenience for them as opposed to necessarily the longer term benefits for the whole of society. So look, we will need support to make this happen. So it's kind of a plea to get your comments in, hopefully if they're supportive, make your suggestions. We absolutely want to hear them. And because ultimately this program that we put in place, we want this to guide our work over the next 10 years. So, I mean, maybe Finola, is there anything you want to wrap up? And we'll give Kevin the last positive word on the night.
Just that really happy from the NTA's point of view and programme for government, the money's there. You can see the energy and effort coming from South Dublin to have it on a kind of, this is very much, yeah, here's the plan. We know that when it gets down to street level, there will be kind of scraps, and that's fine. That's the way it's going to be. But if we can engage in the right way, if we can show people, undermine the fear of change by showing people temporarily what a different street could look like, yeah, I think we can. And I'm so excited about the Wellington Lane project, because that could really prove a template for driving projects through, and with people behind them. And lastly, I'd like to say, although we're calling it Cycle South Dublin, almost every intervention that's done for cycling, like 99%, also benefits pedestrians. So we're benefiting all of those who, like the 12% that walk and cycle to work every day, as well as the 4 or 5% in South Dublin that are cycling, and that's only going to grow. So yeah, looking forward to it. I'm just delighted that this is happening, and yeah, delighted to support you.
Thanks, Finola. Kevin, would you like to say a few words, please?
Yeah, I can say a thing or two.
Off you go.
So for everyone listening, I'd say just treat Cycle South Dublin like a massive opportunity, because it is. This is a huge opportunity to bring investment into the county. It's a huge opportunity to remake some of our streets, to make them a nicer place to walk and cycle. A huge opportunity to redesign bits of streets, to add more greenery, to add more trees, to make them nicer places. It's a huge opportunity to invest in your community. Opportunities like this don't come around all the time, so leap at it, take it with both hands, get involved as much as you can. Projects like this only succeed when lots of people get involved. So talk to your neighbors, ask them to look at the plan, provide comments, both positive and negative, like they all do matter. So yeah, that's it.
Cheers for that, Kevin. That's great. And I just want to say exactly the same thing that everybody else has said. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And just to say that every submission that you make through the portal or through our email address, cycle@sdublincoco.ie, will be considered and will be reported on when we come to do our final report on the strategy. And I'd also just like to thank all of the speakers this evening who returned for our Q&A seminar. Finola O'Driscoll, Mick Mulhern, Ronan Carroll, Kevin Baker and Ali Manari, thank you very much for joining us. And also just to say thank you to my back office workers who I couldn't have done without. Thank you, Mary and Sheila and Porrick and John. Thank you so much, folks. Take care. Bye now.
Thank you.